So the dog ate my homework excuse for missing the deadline was citing lengthy vetting to protect victims. This goes to the point of, yeah, there were millions of files, the files on Pam Bondi's desk, which were there in the summer of 2025. They now expect to release the remaining files over the next coming weeks, with batches appearing around mid-December and continuing into late December. I waited for my batch today. I didn't get any. So I got
Lovely.
nada.
Well, and it kind of is late December, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That-
So as Massey's saying, every day this goes by, you don't produce a document, we should fine Bondi.
well, but he needs to pay us that somewhere to get that
Right.
resolution in
That's true.
place if he wants to do that.
So we talked about the redaction, but I'm going to bring in Perks again. When they released the documents on December 19th, they released them to the website, and there there was another not so technical way of getting some documents.
Yeah,
Yeah, so from my understanding, they had initially released 7 volumes of files, essentially. But some people found out that if you go, like, not even if you go into like the code of the website or anything, this is you go to the URL and you change the volume number from 7 to 8 or any number, like any volume number to 8, there is another batch of documents that they did not intend, I suppose, to come out this time. And m- s- they were still slightly redacted, but, and I believe this was from the volume 8, revealed that uh Epstein and Ghislaine were not the only people, despite what many government officials, including Kash Patel, most famously, I'd say, has said that this was just Epstein and Maxwell. However, Volume 8, again, I'm not 100% sure if it was in that one in particular, lists that they had 10 co-conspirators, all of which were redacted, which again brings the thing of these guys don't sound like victims. Why are they being redacted?
yep.
Right.
And I believe some people with the information that wasn't redacted have been able to pinpoint possibly the identity of some of these conspirators. However, I don't fully know that off the top of my head, so I won't say anything that I don't have backed up. But um, yeah, that's definitely reason at the very least for perjury for Cash Patel.
Right. So, Chris, you'll love this. Like, you only had to change the URL to get access to other documents. These idiots had put the documents on the website and thought no one was going to be savvy enough to just try different
Yeah,
URL.
right, exactly. To dig
They
down
didn't
into the
even
files.
protect them. They didn't even turn the read bits off or put password protection on them. They threw them out there.
You almost wonder if that is, I think Patrick said it earlier, if that is in fact by design. Could you possibly be that an administrator that is that incompetent?
I think they're this stupid and this incompetent, to tell you the truth. I mean, they've got some
And
track history
and
behind.
I will say, as somebody who very much wants this to be like some like hero in our government who found a way to get us these documents and stuff, I am in the party of
Complete
incompetence.
incompetence.
Yeah.
That's,
Right.
I mean,
Uh,
saying but true.
So as we saw, the initial release of the documents also released photographs of some many famous people, some of which include Bill Gates, Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, Diana Ross, Walter Cronkite. I didn't see that one. I have seen the ones of Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, David Copperfield, and some we knew of, the great Andrew Mountbatten, who used to be Prince Andrew but got stripped of his title, who was
But
wicked stuff.
you know what entertainer wasn't in this was Dionne Warwick because she knew that this was coming.
Right. She had the psychic network behind her, so she
That's
knew
my bad,
in
the bad
advance.
humor. She
Another
knew this
shocker
was
was
about to
Woody
happen.
Allen. Another shocker was Woody Allen surfaced.
Yeah.
Uh, the one that shocked me, but again, they said he was at one Epstein sponsored lunch, was Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google.
See, but I did look at some of these things, and some of them are like are like pictures of these people at public forums.
Right,
You know, so it's like okay, they're having lunch with him at a public forum, but
right, true.
that's not incriminating.
Right,
Especially, it's like a conference, and this dude could have come and sat at your table. I'm not protecting any of those people, but the bottom line is that you would have thought that there was greater evidence than I had a picture of you with him at a table of nine in a public conference. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Now,
right, right.
obviously, Prince Andrew and stuff of that nature, and Billy Boy Clinton,
No,
they ain't at no
Clinton.
public conference.
Right.
They're hanging with their bud. But the bottom
Yeah,
line is that some of these other people, like I thought you said, Sergey Brin, and
I
it's
did.
like some tech conference
Right, it was.
and
It
he's
was.
sitting at the table, man. It's like
Right.
so this guy came over to your table. What exactly does that prove? I'm not
Right.
saying he's guilty or not guilty. I'm just saying this is bizarre. You didn't have any better evidence than that, and
Right, right. So then Trump came out in a speech painting that these celebrities and these poor lawyers and politicians, he paints them as victims and very little talk about the real victims, which were the underage female minors in this.
right.
Uh, Trump has never apologized to the victims, the real victims. He's done a lot of apologizing for everybody else. So he comes on, he has such wonderful quotes as, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton and others being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. You know what else is terrible? Epstein and Maxwell luring female minors into their lair so they can sexually accost them. That's what's
Wow.
terrible.
And
And I
it's
wish Trump would speak to that. And a lot of others across the country, I think, want him to speak to it too, and at least apologize for the victims, and at least acknowledge that this guy
he's
was a scumball. Maybe I was,
I
taken in by
can't
him.
recall the Don apologizing, including about the debacle that was the COVID uh, disaster
Right,
of 2020. So the bottom line is that um, uh, the bottom line is I can't picture him, especially because this looks like a intelligence operation, and which was stated in the Florida trial, and that essentially that maybe not stated but was stated by the prosecutor in the Florida trial as to a reason that he was essentially given such a weak sentence down in Florida. And the aspect of that is that maybe the Don doesn't want to apologize for an intelligence operation.
Right, right. So that brings up a couple things about the Florida trial. One was, unfortunately, there was a federally prosecuted trial in Florida in 2008, and much to the chagrin of the Palm Beach Police Department, who wanted this guy in jail for 58 years in one of their fine facilities down in Palm Springs. That's one. It brings up another point that Perk brought up is during that 2008 trial deposition, it is mentioned that 10 co-conspirators are going to be not named and be uh, never going to be prosecuted, that they're immune to prosecution.
Well, isn't
And
it
they do
also
mention the 10 co-conspirators in that 2008 trial.
now I don't know how far back this goes, if it is that trial, but isn't it ironic that I think the Attorney General of Florida might have been Pam Bondi?
No, it wasn't at the time. It was Acosta, Alex Acosta.
Okay.
So yeah, that is a good point because she was the Florida Attorney General at one point.
Yeah, yeah, at one point.
So since December 19th, we've just getting dribs and drabs of the files. As of this date, which is the 29th, we still haven't gotten everything, which is by law they were supposed to give us. December 20th, they released some flight logs and grand jury material. On the 22nd, they released the files, which first mentioned you could easily unredact. That's when that debacle hit. Also, what's interesting is the redacted portions on the 22nd shouldn't have been redacted, that they were espousing on Epstein's trafficking techniques. And that is not supposed to be subject to redaction.
Yeah.
On the 23rd, on the
I can't
23rd,
wait to see if this goes up to Congress and see what
yes,
becomes of the redaction scenario here.
right, and the late release of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
On the 23rd, the DOJ released another large batch of files, 10,000 of them. These ones mentioned Trump quite a bit. They had some flight logs and even some emails saying that I might have been on that jet a little more than 8 times. Also, what's noteworthy on the 23rd is Bill Clinton coming out saying, release them all unredacted. Uh,
That's interesting. Yeah, because he's already um uh fingered.
associated with this
Yeah,
in
yeah,
many pictures.
fingered for the dirt. And the question is if he was president at the time, um, does he instantly have immunity anyway?
Right, right.
You
He
know,
probably
so
does. The only thing I've heard lately was on Christmas, the DOJ stated they needed a few more weeks to finish the full release. That would have been good information to have told Bondi and some others that this was going to be more than a 30-day job, and maybe before the law was written, maybe make it 60 days, that there is such a trove of information. But
yeah.
again, I just think it's gross incompetence. These are the
Well,
same people.
so
Like the files are on my desk.
there wasn't a trove of information. Cash told you there was no trove, man.
Yeah, yeah. We've got that, the Disappearing Act. By the
So
way, go ahead, Perks.
um, just couple things before we get too far from something I want to say. First of all, did do some more research. There are multiple articles from March and May of this year talking about how Doge cut out Adobe Acrobat. So that
Oh,
is
Nate.
that is verifiable. Whether or not that's why it's such a shoddy job of the redactions is anybody's guess, but be kind of funny. Um, the other thing that I this is a bit more of less fact based and more an opinion of the way our president, which I prefer to refer to him as our president, mostly because I think it really highlights how insane this whole thing is that our president is doing this. But the thing that I have to wonder is the way he talks about these associates of like Mr. K said, like he refers to the associates of Epstein almost as if they're victims.
Yes.
And it makes me wonder if like the sinister compliance behind that of why these like people who should not be redacted from the files because it's only supposed to be for victims and minors is
Yep.
because in our government's eyes, for some reason, these co-conspirators are victims.
Yes.
If they gave him immunity already and that was a legal contract, not to say that this ever should have been done, Patrick, but the if it's a legal contract, that is like a legal contract. So if they actually gave those 10 co-conspirators in a legal contract immunity, they could get sued by those people for releasing their names. Now, should they ever granted them immunity? That's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But after the fact is essentially you can get sued. And one place that becomes how I kind of know that is that goes back all the way to like being a contractor for a military company or the military. You sign away your right to disclose anything, and the government can't doesn't put you in jail. They sue you for some
Mm.
obscene amount of money if you disclose anything that, even if it was illegal, if you disclose it, you sign some legal contract with them. That works, I think. As like the other side of the coin is if the government essentially gives you some legal contract and enters into a legal agreement with you, they are bound by that legal agreement. And I think maybe there's something to be had there. I'm not trying to protect anybody, but I am thinking
Yeah,
that
that
is
makes
that they blew it in Florida, and
Oh
they
yeah.
absolutely blew this total thing in Florida. And
yeah, I agree with that like that's just a complete bungling everything and stuff. But it's also like the other names that they have redacted that aren't those co-conspirators that
yeah,
like I'm willing to bet not everybody who's redacted in those files was a quote unquote
right,
co-conspirator,
right.
but even then it's like those people like who are just, like Trump was saying like the lawyers and financial advisors or whoever who just quote unquote crossed paths with Epstein. It's like you have to wonder if by his reasoning, which I know he's not like the dude who did the redactions exactly, but you have to one it's just like kind of the I feel like it could set a precedent of of like being able to take your own name out of the files because according to you, you were a victim, as in you were swindled or blackmailed into this.
Yeah, no, I agree with the whole precedent and whole fact of potentially being the president. Now the question is he wasn't the president, unlike Billy Boy Clinton, he wasn't the president at the time. So if you committed a crime before you were the president, technically, I guess you could pardon yourself
All right.
after the fact. But the bottom line is that you would have to pardon yourself if you weren't president because you committed a crime while you weren't president. And,
Yeah.
where Billy Boy Clinton wouldn't have to pardon it if everything he did was during his presidency. He didn't need to pardon himself because he had automatic immunity. And, which is, shockingly enough, the same thing is like any foreign diplomats, too. Diplomats have automatic immunity. And so if they do anything wrong, basically the worst you can do to them is deport them, from what I
Right.
understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the worst you can do is deport them. So yeah, I mean it. As Perks said, there seems to be a lot more care about the redaction of the people who shouldn't be redacted and the celebrities and the lawyers and the financiers than there are of the actual victims. And, the victims should be redacted. But I mean, I'll conclude with this. There was a string of 119 pages completely redacted. And it's like, they were redacting words like the,
Yeah.
I, and, where. I mean, these
Yeah.
are not horrible things that should be redacted. The word the.
Right. Yeah. You wonder who's doing what, and just unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, that almost does speak to a level of incompetence of just pretty much highlighting the whole page and just putting a black highlighter over it. Of
Right.
not even like it, I kind of have to wonder if some of these pages were even checked beforehand, like for what they were supposed to be redacting, or like given the way it looks, it kind of does just look like they just took the tool, highlighted every page, and just called it a day.
Right.
Right,
And thought they
right,
were going to get away with that.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And again, it goes to the point where, I've been feeling like this, and C squared, you mentioned this, throughout this second term of Trump, like we're a bunch of idiots. Like he's the smartest guy in the world. We're a bunch of idiots, and anything he does is going to get by us.
Yeah. Right.
It's
No,
just
I agree. I think there
ludicrous.
is some level of arrogance there, which kind of pisses off his own base. But what are you going to do? He's never running again, so
Well, the midterms are coming up. Well,
that right,
hopefully,
and
he can
that
get some
yeah, but that
majorities
doesn't
in
affect
Congress.
the only effect that has on him is he becomes a lame duck. The bottom line is that he's still president, and the rest of these people get screwed. And
Right. And the other scary thing is he's done so many executive orders and skirted Congress so much that nothing is going through Congress. The only thing of significance, I would say, that has gone through Congress, they had to do a little bit of deal making. His favorite thing in the world was the big, beautiful bill.
yeah, which had all kinds of problems.
All right. So, what do you think's next? You anybody want to take bets on the day we get all the files?
Yeah, I am taking the over on never.
I'm a little more optimistic. What about you, Perks?
Uh, I I would not be willing to put money on any bet that I would make for these because I feel like if I've learned anything this year alone, it's that anything can happen.
That's true.
So I think like for good or for bad, like anything can happen. And so ideally, again, like I said, if there is some hero in the government right now who just so happens to be watching this podcast and happens to be the one who made it so that these files were so easily accessible, I'm like, keep doing what you're doing, bud.
Right,
Like, we're
right,
all rooting for you.
right,
But if this is government incompetence, I still feel like I don't think. Here's how, like, if I were to summarize it, I don't think we're going to get these files unredacted. Not legally isn't the word I'm thinking of, but if we get these files unredacted, I don't think it'll be on purpose.
right, right, right. Yeah, I agree with that. I got the under on never. I'm thinking sometime I really think in sometime in January. But I think the common theme between all of us is that all the files? We're
Yeah.
done. Well,
Yeah, yeah, right.
when are the others going to come on, hit the
I'm not
internet?
so sure that the people will have that, and and so we'll see. As the wonderful Anthony Hopkins said in The Bounty, are the people in charge? They could be.
Right, right, right. So well, I'll end with this. What do you think? What's going to happen to Bondi? Do you think they're going to get
I
this
think she's
condemned?
eventually going to get flushed. I think Kasia is going to get flushed, and then it's going to be some circus to put somebody new in there. That
Right. I think.
I
Go ahead,
I
Perch.
think I would agree with that. With the amount of heat that Bondi and Patel are taking, I I can fully see them being cut out to install somebody else who will probably do about the same, have the same level of competence that these two
Right.
have.
Right, right. I also think they're gone. I'm thinking the midterm elections are going to be the opportunity to flush them out. The other thing that could be at play is they're gonna take the sword for this instead of the Donald.
yeah,
Hmm.
I
All
believe.
right, let's wrap it up. You can reach us on email at one for the road podcast at gmail.com. That is the number one. That is the number four. Our website is one for the road.net. That is the number one, the number four. We are on three audio platforms, A being Spotify, RSS, and Podbean. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. For C squared and Perk. Have a good week.
See you, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, y'all.